I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody...
When the wind finally carried his voice and Taehyung didn't look away. It began without an audience. No stage lights, no chants, no silver ocean of army light sticks swaying in unison. Just the sound of the wind pressing softly against the windows, as if the night itself was urging him to speak. Kim Taehyung sat alone in a corner of his apartment, the city stretching endlessly beyond the glass. His sweater hung loose, his hair unstyled, messy in the way that only happens when you've stopped thinking about how you look. On the table, a candle flickered faintly, its light bending every time the wind slipped in through the half-open window. He had been silent for a long time. Long enough that some feelings had become strangers in their own home. And yet tonight, something in the air shifted. Without announcing it, without warning, he opened his phone. A live stream. No intro. No rehearsed greeting. Just him, the glow of the candle, and a voice that came like the low hum of an old record, familiar, worn, trembling at the edges. "I didn't plan to talk about this," he began, eyes falling not on the screen but somewhere just beyond it. "But there's someone I once thought I'd never stop singing for." He let the words hang there. Not bait for questions. Not a headline waiting to be spun. Just truth offered quietly, as if too much volume would make it vanish. For years, Taehyung had hidden this part of himself behind laughter, behind the chaos of airports and stages. But tonight the barricades were gone. His voice wavered, not from fear, but from the weight of finally letting something escape. "I told myself," he said softly, "that silence would protect us. That if I stayed quiet, maybe the world would let us keep what was ours." But, his gaze lowered, lips pressing into the faintest smile. Silence can be heavier than the truth. A pause. Long enough for the candle to bend again. "There were nights on tour," he admitted, "when I sang to a crowd of thousands, but in my heart I was singing to just one person." The chat was a blur, questions, theories, declarations of love, but Taehyung didn't read them. His hand stayed around the mug in front of him, holding the heat as if it could keep him anchored in this moment. "I don't know if they'll hear this," he whispered. "But if they do, they'll know." He didn't end with a smile. Or a wave. Just a breath. And then the screen faded to black. The day after the wind changed. Seoul woke the next morning to the same streets, the same traffic, the same late summer air. But for Army, the city felt charged, like the night before had left invisible threads hanging in the air. Clips of the live stream spread like seeds on the wind. Some replayed the exact moment his voice caught. Others slowed the frame when his eyes softened, as though those few seconds held an entire love story. And somewhere, unknown to the rest, another phone lit up. An account that had been silent for months posted a photo, an empty chair by a window, the curtain swaying from a breeze. No caption. The timing was too precise. The chair, the half-open window, it was as if the air from his apartment had traveled and settled there. Fans noticed. They always notice. Is this their reply? Someone typed. No answer came. The song that wasn't meant to be found. 2 weeks later, a rehearsal clip leaked. 7 seconds. Taehyung with his guitar, strumming a melody that had never been heard before. His lips moved slowly, and though the audio was faint, the words slipped through. "I thought you were gone with the wind. But you were listening all along." The clip ended before the next line. It was enough. Speculation ignited. Was this for them? Or was it just coincidence, one of those accidents too perfect to explain away? At his next concert, during the encore, Taehyung stepped to the very edge of the stage. He didn't scan the whole crowd. His eyes moved slowly, as if looking for someone who might be hiding in plain sight. "Thank you," he said. Just 2 words. But they felt like the end of a letter that had been written years ago. The letter that stayed on the desk. That night, long after the cheers had faded, Taehyung sat at his desk. A blank page lay before him, the pen uncapped. He began to write, not as a song, not as an announcement, but as something more dangerous, the truth. He didn't write a name. He didn't need to. Halfway through, he stopped. Folded the page. Slipped it into an envelope. But he didn't seal it. Didn't send it. It sat there, waiting. The reply that never used words. 3 nights later, an untagged playlist appeared online. No cover art, no credits, just a single track, When the Wind Finally Carried My Voice. It was him. The voice was low, almost too soft to be captured, but the lyrics felt like a confession sent through an unlocked door. "If this finds you in the quiet, No, I never stopped singing. Even when I thought the wind had taken you away. Hours later, the track vanished. But not before ARMY found it, saved it, and let it travel, like the wind, unstoppable once it starts moving. When Taehyung finally posted again, it was a photo of an open curtain, sunlight pouring in. No caption. And just like that, the wind moved on, carrying a story that may never be fully told, but will be felt every time a song begins with his voice. When the silence finally spoke back and Taehyung heard it anyway. It didn't arrive in the way he'd imagined. Not in a phone call. Not in a sudden knock at the door. It began as a sound, so small he almost thought he'd dreamed it. The wind. Only this time it was carrying something with it. Taehyung had been sitting by the window again, the same one from that night, watching the city fold itself into evening. His guitar rested across his lap, untouched for hours. The page with the unsent letter was still on his desk, sealed only by hesitation. The sound came again, soft, fleeting. Not from the city, not from inside. From somewhere between. It was music. The voice that shouldn't have been there. It was faint, too faint for a neighbor's radio, too deliberate for coincidence. He stood, leaning into the open air. Somewhere, far away, a melody floated upward like a thread unraveling in reverse. It was their melody. Changed just slightly, the way someone might hum when they're alone, not realizing the sound could reach another set of ears. Taehyung's breath caught. The wind carried it for only a few seconds before it was gone. But it was enough to turn the room around him into something alive again. The photograph without a caption. That night, an account, silent for so long, posted again. A single image, a notebook open on a table, a page half filled with handwriting. The words weren't entirely clear, but the top line was unmistakable. I heard you. No emojis. No tags. No hints of when or where. The internet erupted. Some insisted it was coincidence. Others swore it was the missing half of a conversation that had started with his live stream. Taehyung said nothing. But the next day he was seen walking into the studio earlier than usual, guitar in hand. The song that sounded like an answer. 3 weeks later, during a sound check in Manila, someone in the empty arena caught it on video. A new song. Slow, deliberate, stitched with pauses like the spaces in a letter meant only for one reader. The lyrics fell into the mic like raindrops. The wind came back to me. And this time it carried your voice. He didn't play it during the actual concert. Only at soundcheck. Only once. It was as if the song wasn't meant for the crowd at all, but for whoever might be listening somewhere beyond the walls. The night the wind stayed. Back in Seoul, the rain returned. Not the hurried kind, but the slow, lingering rain that seems to listen more than it falls. Taehyung sat with the envelope again, the one he had never sent. He placed it on the windowsill, not outside, not inside, just there. He didn't know if the wind could carry paper. But he knew it could carry songs. And if songs could cross cities, maybe so could this. The candle flickered, the curtains moved, and somewhere in the city, another window opened. For the first time in years, the silence between them didn't feel empty. It felt like breathing.
Yeah, don't ask questions, shut your lid. I need to run away from this and go get off the grid. Feel like my brain is overloaded, man, I'm losing it. Don't let them tell you what to do, man.